1. Let me tell you about this interesting 1964 Ford Ranchero I found listed for $4,500. I've got to be straight with you. This isn't a show car, but there's something genuinely cool about it. This Ranchero has quite a story. It was rescued from a field where it was nearly destined to become a parts car. It's running the original 170 straight six with a 3-speed manual transmission, column shift. And let's be honest here, it's showing its age. It burns some oil and needs carb tuning, but hey, it's still chugging along. The seller has been pretty upfront about the condition. There's rust in the typical spots for a 60s Ranchero, and the floor repairs are, well, let's say, creative. It needs proper floor pan replacement and some attention to the roof corners. But it's not all rough news. The body is generally straight, and it's got some interesting mods. It's lowered 3 inches, rocks a modified 65 Falcon grille, and has that cool relocated gas filler in the bed. What really catches my attention is the amount of mechanical work that's been done. We're talking new brakes throughout, fresh tires, shocks, ignition system upgrades, and a modern alternator conversion. The heater system has been rebuilt, and it's got a new fuel system from tank to pump. For $4,500, you're getting a running, driving piece of Ford history that's been set up as a driver, not a showpiece. It comes with some bonus parts too. Extra doors and a set of 14-inch wheels to complement the original 13S it's sitting on. 2. Let me tell you about this absolutely incredible 1980 Chevrolet K5 Blazer that's currently listed for $16,500. I've got to say, this one's pretty special. What we're looking at here is a genuine California time capsule. We're talking one owner since new, still wearing its original California blue plates. The Blazer comes in the upscale Silverado trim, and let me tell you, this thing is remarkably well preserved. The original black paint still shines, and there's not a speck of rust to be found. Thank you, California weather. The interior is where this K5 really shines. It's all original with no rips or tears, and even the notoriously fragile headliner is still intact. There's just one small crack in the dash, but that's incredibly minor for a 43-year-old vehicle. You're getting all the luxury features of 1980, power windows, power door locks, and working AC. Even the original AM/FM radio still cranks out the tunes. Under the hood, you'll find the trusty 350 V8 paired with an automatic transmission. The 4x4 system engages properly, and all mechanical systems are reported to be working as they should. The odometer shows 116,482 miles, which isn't bad at all for its age. Look, finding a K5 Blazer in this condition is getting harder and harder. This isn't some restored vehicle. It's an original survivor that's been meticulously maintained. Yes, there's a door trim piece that needs a new mounting bracket, but that's honestly nitpicking on an otherwise exceptional example. 3. Me tell you about this sweet 1965 Ford F100 that's up for grabs at $19,000. But hang on, there's something interesting about this listing we need to discuss. This F100 has clearly had some serious upgrades. It's running a 302 roller engine, not original, but a great choice, paired with a C4 automatic transmission. The 3.00 rear gears tell us this truck was built for comfortable cruising rather than heavy hauling. They've modernized it nicely with power steering and 4-wheel disc brakes, both huge improvements over the original setup. However, and I've got to be straight with you here, the seller's description ends mid-sentence with, "All it needs is a new..." That's a bit concerning because we don't know what else this truck might need. The listing shows some solid upgrades including new suspension parts, interior, radiator, wheels, tires, and 4 shocks. But that unfinished sentence leaves us hanging. The odometer shows 62,389 miles, but on a truck this old and modified, that number might not tell the whole story. Being pre-smog is a big plus for California buyers, and these mid-60s F100S have a fantastic classic look that never goes out of style. For $19,000, you're getting what appears to be a nicely upgraded classic truck, but I'd strongly recommend getting more information about that unfinished sentence and a thorough inspection before pulling the trigger. These trucks are climbing in value, but you'll want to know exactly what you're getting into. 4. Let's talk about this 1979 Chevy C20 pickup that's listed for $6,500. I'm going to keep it real with you because that's what we do here. This is a working class hero right here. A C20 with the V8 engine and automatic transmission showing 65,600 miles on the clock. The seller's being pretty straightforward, listing the condition as fair, which is honest for a 44-year-old work truck. Let's talk about the good stuff first. It's got new tires, always a plus, new headlights, and something that's really valuable: dual gas tanks. The AC actually blows cold, which is pretty impressive for a truck of this vintage. The interior is reported to be in good shape, which is often a rare find in these old workhorses. Now, the description is pretty bare bones, which means you'll want to ask some important questions. While it runs and drives well, you'll probably want to know about rust. These old C20s were prone to it, maintenance history, and whether that blue paint is original. For $6,500, you're looking at a classic Chevy truck that's presumably ready to roll. It's not a show truck, but these C20s were built to work, and this one seems to still be doing its job. Just remember, with any vehicle this age, you'll want to inspect it thoroughly before making a deal. 5. Let me tell you about this seriously interesting 1971 Chevy K10 CST that's up for grabs at $18,000. This isn't your average old pickup. This one's got some real muscle under the hood. Let's dive right into what makes this truck special. It was restored in 2021, and they didn't just give it a basic refresh, they went all out. The heart of this beast is a Blueprint 383-stroker V8, which is a significant upgrade from the original engine. They've paired that with a TCI Maximizer TH 353-speed automatic transmission, which is a solid choice for handling that extra power. The truck's been lifted and wears a sharp two-tone paint job in bronze and white, a combination that really works on these classic K10s. Inside, they've redone the interior with brown cloth and vinyl, keeping it period correct but fresh. The odometer shows 77,400 miles, though with this level of restoration, that number is probably more academic than meaningful. For those who might not know, the CST trim was the luxury package for these trucks, making this a pretty desirable model to start with. The fact that it's a K10 means it's got four-wheel drive, perfect for both show and go. At $18,000, you're getting a professionally restored classic truck with serious power upgrades. While the description is pretty brief, the combination of components they've chosen shows someone knew what they were doing with this build. 6. Let's talk about this 1975 Ford F-250 that's listed for $6,500. This is one of those honest, old-school trucks that's getting harder to find these days. What we've got here is a brown F-250 powered by the reliable 360 V8, paired with an automatic transmission. The odometer shows 71,200 miles, and the seller's highlighting something really important. This is a purely mechanical beast with no computers to fix or sensors. That's music to a lot of people's ears. The good news keeps coming. It's described as almost rust-free, which is pretty rare for a 48-year-old work truck. They've done some nice upgrades without going overboard. There's a professionally installed Flowmaster exhaust system and modern projection headlights. The truck still rolls on its factory wheels with good tires. And here's something cool. It's got its factory AC and even the original ashtray, which often goes missing in these old trucks. Recent maintenance includes a fresh tune-up and oil change, so it should be ready to roll. The dash is crack-free, which is pretty impressive for a 70s Ford truck, and it's got current tags. For $6,500, you're looking at what the seller rightfully calls a perfect truck to restore. It's got good bones, it's complete, and it's one of those vehicles that keeps things simple and straightforward. The seller's right. With proper care, this is the kind of truck that could be passed down to the next generation. 7. Let me tell you about this killer 1966 Chevy El Camino that's up for grabs at $27,000. This isn't your average grocery getter, this is a serious muscle car with a bed. Let's talk about what makes this El Camino special. Under that factory SS hood sits a mighty 402 big block Chevy engine, paired with a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission, That's a dream combination for any muscle car fan. The rear end is equally impressive with a 12-bolt Posey running 3.31 gears, which makes this El Camino perfect for both street cruising and occasional hard launches. The sellers put some real thought into making this a comfortable driver. Last summer, they installed new carpet with Dynamat sound deadening. That's a nice touch. Added bucket seats and a console. There's a knee knocker tack, which is perfect for keeping an eye on that big block's RPMs. The tires are practically new with only 2,300 miles on them. What really adds value here is the factory SS hood and dealer-installed trim package. These are details that matter to collectors. The blue paint looks sharp in the photos, and with 90,600 miles showing, this El Camino has been enjoyed but not abused. For $27,000, you're getting a seriously well-equipped El Camino that combines classic looks with serious performance upgrades. The seller mentions it, starts right up and runs great, which is exactly what you want to hear about a modified classic. 8. Let's talk about this interesting 1952 Ford F1, or possibly F2, that's listed for $11,500. I've got to say, this one's got some character. First off, let's address the elephant in the room. The seller's honestly not sure if it's an F1 or F2 3/4 ton, though it's titled as an F1. That kind of transparency is refreshing. What we do know is that it's powered by the original style 6-cylinder engine paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, plus reverse, of course. The truck's wearing a fresh satin black paint job, which the seller specifically chose for that classic work truck look. And I've got to say, it works. What's interesting here is that the fenders, running boards, and hood are fiberglass replacements, but they're reported to be in nice condition with no damage. The interior is described as simple and clean, which is exactly what you want in these old workhorses. The glass, body, and tires are all reported to be in good shape. Now, there is a small caveat. It needs some electrical TLC, but the seller's upfront about it not affecting the truck's drivability. For $11,500, you're getting a classic Ford truck that's been kept simple and honest. It's not a show queen, but rather a usable piece of American history that's been maintained with a clear vision, keeping that authentic work truck character alive. 9. Let me tell you about this absolutely stunning 1979 Ford Bronco that's listed for $55,000. This isn't your average Bronco. This is a seriously well-done restoration from 2020. Let's dive into what makes this one special. The sellers owned it for 7 years and gave it a complete makeover in 2020. We're talking a full restoration where everything was touched. Under the hood, there's a 400M engine that reportedly came with the truck and was said to be rebuilt with a cam upgrade. It's been modernized with an aluminum radiator and electric fans. Smart upgrades for better cooling. The suspension got a complete overhaul with new shocks and leaf springs, and they installed a new brake system throughout. They've even added Killmat insulation, which is a nice touch for reducing road noise and heat, something these old Broncos definitely benefit from. The exterior sports fresh paint in green, and it's sitting on new wheels and tires. Inside, you're looking at a completely new interior. The seller's being honest about it needing a couple things, but mentions it's completely drivable anywhere. Here's something interesting. This Bronco has barely been driven since its restoration, maybe 100 miles total. That means everything is still fresh and tight. The odometer has rolled over, but given the extensive restoration, that's more of a historical footnote than a concern. 10. Let me tell you about this sweet 1967 Ford F100 Custom Cab Ranger that's up for grabs at $13,500. This one's got some real charm to it. What we're looking at here is a largely original truck that's been maintained rather than modified, and that's getting rare to find these days. It's powered by the 352 V8 paired with an automatic transmission, and the seller's using it as a daily driver, which tells us it's a reliable runner. They've done some smart updates to keep it roadworthy. There's a front disc brake conversion, a huge safety upgrade over the original drums, new tires and wheels, and they've refreshed the fuel system with a new tank, pump, and carburetor. They even installed a new factory original steering wheel, which shows attention to keeping things period correct. The odometer shows 108,200 miles, and being a custom cab Ranger model, this was the more upscale version of the F100 back in '67. The seller emphasizes that it's not molested, meaning it hasn't been chopped up or modified from its original form, which is becoming increasingly valuable in the classic truck market. For $13,500, or best offer, you're getting a classic Ford pickup that maintains its original character while having the right upgrades to make it a usable daily driver. The fact that it's being regularly driven suggests it's sorted mechanically, which is exactly what you want in a vintage truck. 11. Let's talk about this 1970 GMC K1500 that's on the market for $12,300. This is one of those classic trucks that combines vintage charm with real usability. Under the hood, you've got the tried-and-true combination of a 350 V8 engine matched to a 350 automatic transmission, one of GM's most reliable powertrains. The seller's emphasizing that it runs strong with no smoke, which is always good news for a vehicle of this age. They've also equipped it with power steering and power brakes, making it much more manageable in daily driving situations. Let's talk about what's new. They've installed a fresh gas tank, new steering wheel, and new seat upholstery, so the crucial comfort items are sorted. The tires are new, and they've recently serviced the transmission, both important maintenance items that show this truck's been cared for. The odometer shows 119,321 miles and has rolled over. But with these old trucks, it's more about condition than mileage. At $12,300, or best offer, you're looking at a solid classic 4x4 that's ready to roll. The seller seems motivated to sell, but is clear about wanting serious buyers only. No scammers, which is always refreshing to see in a listing. 12. Let's talk about this 1971 Chevy K5 Blazer that's listed for $16,500. This is one of those honest classics that deserves your attention. First off, we're looking at an original orange K5 running its factory-style setup, a 350 V8 paired with a 350 automatic transmission. Here's where it gets interesting. The engine was rebuilt a few years back, and the transmission and transfer case have just been freshly rebuilt. That's some serious mechanical investment right there. Now let's keep it real. Like most K5s of this era, it needs some bodywork. The seller's being upfront about needing typical rocker panel and front floorboard repairs. These are common rust areas on these Blazers, and it's refreshing to see a seller being honest about it. The odometer has rolled over, but on a 52-year-old SUV, that's pretty much expected. At $16,500, or best offer, you're looking at a K5 that could either be driven as is while you gradually address the body issues, or it could be the starting point for a full restoration. The mechanical investment that's already been made gives you a solid foundation to work with. These early K5 Blazers are seriously hot in the collector market right now, and finding one with its original drivetrain that's still running strong isn't easy. The orange paint, if original, is a cool period-correct color that really stands out. 13. Let me tell you about this honest 1979 Ford F-150 Custom Explorer that's up for grabs for just $3,500. I've got to keep it real with you about this one. This is a project truck being sold by someone helping their dad clear out some projects, and we all know how that goes. What we've got here is a F-150 powered by the reliable 302 V8, equipped with power steering and power brakes. The seller's being refreshingly honest about its condition, listing it as fair and being upfront about its limitations. Let's talk straight about this truck. It runs and drives around the block, but it's not ready for a cross-country trip. The tires are ancient, 15+ years old and dry-rotted, so you'll definitely want a trailer at home. That's the kind of honest disclosure we love to see in a listing. The good news? It's wearing its original blue paint and is described as super solid. That's a great starting point for any project. Being a custom Explorer model adds a bit of extra appeal, as these were nicely equipped trucks for their time. For $3,500, You've got several options here. You could restore it to its former glory, use it as a local dump runner, or embrace the patina and build something cool while keeping that weathered look. The price seems fair for what you're getting. A complete running classic Ford truck that needs some love, but isn't a basket case. 14. Let me tell you about this awesome 1972 Ford F350 custom cab that's listed for $12,500. This is one of those rare finds that makes you stop scrolling. What we've got here is a seriously heavy-duty classic with some real heritage. It's essentially a two-owner truck that was originally ordered from a Southern Oregon dealership back in '72. Under the hood sits the mighty 390 V8, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission that includes a granny gear, perfect for heavy loads or steep grades. The Dana 70 rear end and dual rear wheels tell you this truck meant business from day one. The seller's done some smart maintenance while keeping the original parts, which is huge for collectors. We're talking about a new carburetor, fuel pump, and filters, but they're including the original parts. That's the kind of thoughtful ownership that adds value. They've also put new tires on it, which is a significant investment on a dually. The odometer shows 94,000 miles, and being from Southern Oregon originally, there's a good chance it's escaped the rust issues that plague many of these workhorses. The yellow paint looks period correct and sharp. At $12,500, you're getting a well-preserved piece of Ford truck history. These F350s were built to work, and finding one that's this original, with documented history and careful maintenance, is getting rare. The fact that it runs and drives excellent suggests this isn't just a pretty face, it's ready to work or show. 15. Let me tell you about this 1973 Ford F350 Super Camper Special Ranger that's up for grabs for $4,000. Let's keep it real here. There are some things we need to discuss. First off, I noticed the seller listed it as like new condition, but the description tells a different story. This is a work truck that's been sitting since 2016, and the seller admits it runs fair due to sitting and needs some TLC. Let's be honest. Any vehicle parked for 7 years is going to need some attention. Now for the good stuff, it's got the desirable FE 390 V8 with a Holley 4-barrel carb, and being a Super Camper Special Ranger, it's a pretty rare model. It's got some nice features like AC, power steering, power brakes, and dual fuel tanks. They've done some smart upgrades like a remote oil filter and transmission cooler, and they've replaced the radiator, fuel pump, and ignition components. The odometer shows 80,708, but has rolled over, and this truck's been working since 1996 as a commercial vehicle. It needs some minor bodywork and comes with a non-original tailgate. On the plus side, being a 73 in California, it doesn't require smog checks. That's a big deal. For $4,000, you're looking at a project truck with good bones. The Super Camper Special Package is desirable, and these old Ford work trucks are getting harder to find. Just be realistic. It's going to need some mechanical attention after sitting for so long. 16. Let me tell you about this 1977 Chevy C20 that's listed for $2,200, and I've got to be straight with you about this one. First, the elephant in the room. This truck isn't currently running. The seller's being completely honest about the situation. It died in September, and the diagnosis isn't great. We're looking at water mixing with oil in the engine, which typically means either a blown head gasket or worse. The shop's verdict is that it needs a new engine. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Before this issue, the seller invested over $7,000 in the truck over the past 5 years, and they've got the receipts to prove it. We're talking about some serious maintenance, a rebuilt transmission, new wheels and tires, plus they're keeping the originals, new carburetor, master cylinder, radiator, muffler, tailpipe, and a full tune-up including valve cover gaskets. It's a 3/4 ton fleet side with a 350 V8, 5.7L, and automatic transmission, finished in GM mahogany color. The odometer shows 103,910 miles, but has rolled over. For $2,200, you're essentially buying a parts truck or a project that needs an engine. However, with all the recent work done, this could be a good foundation for someone willing to drop in a replacement engine. The transmission rebuild alone would cost more than the asking price these days. 17. Let me tell you about this 1984 K5 Blazer that's listed for $6,000. And I'm going to keep it real with you about what we're looking at here. This is an honest, no-nonsense K5 with the classic 350 V8 and automatic transmission combo. The seller's being upfront about its condition, listing it as fair and acknowledging rust in the usual spots, which for these K5s typically means wheel wells, rocker panels, and possibly floor pans. Here's something important to note. It hasn't been driven since 2021. While it does start and run, the seller recommends trailering it home. That's the kind of honest advice we appreciate. The odometer shows 230,000 miles and has rolled over. But on these old trucks, condition matters more than mileage. For $6,000 firm, and they're only taking cash, you're looking at what the seller accurately describes as either a restoration candidate or a potential daily driver with some work. These K5s are gaining value in the classic market, but this one's going to need some love to get there. The price point puts it in an interesting spot. It's not cheap enough to be a pure parts truck, but it's still reasonable enough to be a solid project base, especially considering running K5s are getting harder to find. The 350 engine is one of the most rebuild-friendly motors out there, which is a plus for anyone planning to revive this rig. 18. Let me tell you about this interesting 1964 Ford F100 that's listed for $12,000. This one's got quite a story to tell. This is a San Jose-built long bed F100 with an 8.5-foot bed, and it's had some thoughtful upgrades over the years. The original engine gave up the ghost in 2016, but here's where it gets interesting. They replaced it with a Ford 300 straight six from a 1988 F100. Now that's actually a smart swap because the 300 is legendary for its reliability, and this particular engine came from a well-maintained Marin Community College truck with documented service history. The sellers made some nice updates. They converted it from the original 3 on the tree to a 4-speed floor shift, which makes it much more enjoyable to drive. They tackled the rust issues head-on by installing a new bed and doing some strategic welding repairs. The truck got a paint job in 2017, though it's picked up some honest wear marks from actually being used for carpentry work. Recent maintenance includes a new battery, alternator, and a heater repair. The radiator's about 5 years old, and while the white wall tires show some work wear, they still give it that classic look. At $12,000, and they're open to negotiation, you're looking at a working classic that's been thoughtfully modified to be more usable while maintaining its vintage charm. The documented history of the replacement engine is a big plus, and the rust repair work shows they weren't just covering up problems. 19. We're checking out this legit 1964 Ford F100 that just popped up on Craigslist for $4K flat. This isn't some fancy restoration. This is a real working classic with the patina and character to prove it. This old workhorse is rocking the original style 232 straight six that the seller says starts right up every time. No computer nonsense, just honest American engineering that's still doing its job 60 years later. The previous owner claimed it was rebuilt, and while there's no paperwork to back that up, it apparently runs like a champ. It's got that classic 3-on-the-tree manual transmission that your grandpa taught your dad to drive with. 0 power options. This is a truck from when men were men and didn't need power steering or fancy electronics. The odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage is anyone's guess, but that's part of the charm. Let's be real about the condition. The bed has some serious rust, and there's typical rust on the leading edge of the hood. But the rest of the truck is surprisingly solid for being older than most of us watching this video. The sellers upgraded it with a new radiator and converted it to a 1-wire alternator setup. All lights work, though the original AM radio is toast. For $4,000, this is an honest truck with a clean title that you could either start restoring or just keep using for Home Depot runs like the current owner. The seller isn't messing around. Cash only, no lowballers, no trades, and you better bring cash if you want a test drive. 20. We're diving into this absolutely gorgeous 1953 Chevy 3100 pickup that just hit Craigslist for $19,500. This is one of those finds that makes you stop scrolling and stare. This beauty is powered by the legendary 235 cubic inch inline-six engine paired with a 4-speed manual transmission that lets you feel every gear change the way trucks were meant to be driven. The seller notes, "It's showing just 18,000 miles on the odometer, though on a truck this age that's likely rolled over." Let's talk about what makes this 3100 special. This was originally restored as a show car, but has now been converted to driver status, which means you get show-quality looks without the guilt of actually using it. The restoration work looks top-notch, with the seller emphasizing, "No rust ever." Music to any classic truck buyer's ears. The interior is described as excellent and comes with new window felts and rubber seals throughout. One awesome upgrade is the electric wipers, which replace the vacuum-operated originals that were notoriously unreliable. The bed features beautiful rosewood planks that add a touch of class you just don't see on every 3100. Those wheel Vintique rims, wrapped in BF Goodrich tires, give it the perfect stance. Classic looks with modern reliability. And registration is paid through 2026, so you can focus on enjoying your new truck rather than DMV paperwork.